My name is Gaddy. I grew up and lived in East Prairie, Missouri. In the 7th grade, I was kicked out of school for selling prescription pills, Adderall. Kind of graduated into methamphetamines around some of the people that I'd got in trouble with. The years that I was supposed to be coping with life on my own, I was using methamphetamines to do all that. It started robbing me of my life at an early age. I wound up getting arrested for distribution of methamphetamines and firearms. The night before I got arrested, I'd done lost my wife, done lost my kids. I was at home. There wasn't nothing left in the house, a bag of meth and a pipe and a handgun. I had sat in the house with that handgun and I contemplated killing myself. But I'd been up for so long, I wound up passing out and falling asleep in the house before it had ever happened. And when I woke up, I had messaged a couple of churches, and I didn't really know how to go about it or what I was doing, but I decided that I needed something else, but I wasn't ready to give up yet. I didn't have any friends left. Nobody answered my phone calls while I was in county. Did nobody come put money on my books. After seeing my kid while I was in jail, I realized I couldn't do this anymore. This isn't how I wanted to die, and I didn't want to spend the rest of my life in jail. I cried out to God that night and told him that if he was real, I needed him, and I needed him now. And he told me that night in the jail cell that I would either serve him in there or I would serve him out here. It was my choice. It was my one shot. I decided I wanted to try to start reading the Bible. When I had a friend in jail with me, I decided if we get a Bible, maybe we could go through it and read to each other and stuff like that. And we would read in the mornings, then we started reading at night before we went to bed. And then it was breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We would read these loose leaf papers and stuff that we had in there. At the time, they didn't have any Bibles in the jails we could get to. When people would call, we'd kind of, have them tell us what the next, scriptures and stuff was. We'd write them down, kind of just making our own for the time being. There was 2 of us when it started. By the 3rd or 4th week, I think there were 6 or 7 of us that were sitting in there at nighttime that was going over reading. At that time, every time I read something, it was like a weight was lifted off my chest. Everything that I'd done, and even though I didn't know if I was getting out or not, it still gave me some kind of hope that, even if I wasn't out, I was still better. A few weeks later, we had found out that due to some circumstances that my charges may be dropped and they were going to go ahead and release me from jail. At the time, they weren't allowing anybody in to talk to anybody or anything. They didn't have any of the Bibles there. So I thought it was important that once I got out, since my charges and stuff were dropped, this was the first thing I could do, give back, because I didn't have no money, I didn't have nothing else. But that's the beauty with God, is we don't have to have all that stuff to give back to what he wants. So I found it important to go around and find out what I needed to do to get Bibles. I had wound up being friends with one of the officers that had arrested me. And it was no big deal bringing the Bibles up there. They gave them out to the people. If somebody didn't have one, we made sure we got them one. So after that, I decided I was going to give my life to God one way or another. I wound up getting baptized, serving in church, telling my testimony, doing whatever I could to be a servant. The things that I'd lost in 30-something years, they started coming back within 5 months. I started getting to see my kids again. I got joint custody of them, got my daughter back. Eventually my wife came back. It wasn't long after that we got married. After we started putting God at the head of our house, things started changing even more. And it became apparent that everything I had done, I'd made a mess out of. And the only way I was going to make it out of this was with God. And no matter how much I pushed him away throughout my life and done things that didn't have anything to do with him at all, he was still there. I tried for 31 years. Anybody that's read the Bible, there's been plenty of times that there's other accounts where people have been in jail and they walked out, walked through the fire and didn't even wind up smelling like smoke. And I didn't have any charges when I was done. He can do great and wonderful things.